Uh, I'd like to start with just by picturing the last interaction you've had with a member, one that went really well. You know that you nailed it before you hit send or before you hung up the phone. Maybe it's a renewal reminder where you reference something specific about that person's year, or it was a conference invitation specifically tailored to their specialty, or a welcome email that you felt that it came from a colleague and not like a mail merge. It worked. You felt it in the way that they responded. And then you look at the rest of your list and you're like, how do I do this again and again? That's the personalization paradox. Interactions that drive the best outcomes are the ones you frequently don't have enough time to do. And this session is about setting a realistic and practical path for understanding how personalization matters and how you deliver it through hundreds or thousands of membership interactions without burning your team out in the process. And I know it sounds counterproductive, personalization, yet somehow done at scale and using a non-human tool, hence the title, The Paradox. So let's get into it. My name is Neil Gray. I've been in B2B and B2B2C for 25 years. I've worked for small organizations, Fortune 500 and private equity companies. I volunteered at a lot of not-for-profits, whether it's my local Meals on Wheels or at a few food banks. I also mentor for the American Marketing Association and Business in the Streets. And it's my not-for-profit experience that I'll be drawing on mostly today. Because what I've found there is that the common denominator is that there are too few people to do too much work. Invariably, it's a handful of dedicated, hardworking people that have to cover a number of different areas, whether it's in their specialty or outside of their specialty. And they often become a generalist because there's just the expectation that you pitch in to add to the contributions, because not everyone can handle everything. I recently joined Data Scout as their CRO. I'm in charge of sales and marketing for them. But this is not going to be a sales pitch. I believe in the value of vendor neutral thought leadership. But that said, I'll just go on the next slide a little bit to give you some information about Data Scout and help you understand why we have the credibility to talk about some of the topics I'm going to express or explore today. So Data Scout is the AI-driven engagement and segmentation engine for IMAS. Data Scout is a division of Bursting Silver, which is the largest IMAS implementer. And you'll see down the right-hand side of the page all of the different AI enablement tools that allow you to engage with your membership base, whether it's a membership-facing chatbot, a staff-facing chatbot, or a public-facing chatbot, tools to help you enrich member profiles, generate surveys, or email templates, or as well as our AI agents, or pardon me, assistants that can help you with day-to-day tasks. So we're all over AI, and we're all over AI for membership-based organizations. I'd like to take you through what's just a brief alignment on what the session will be and what it's not going to be. So this session is not a commercial for Data Scout. It is a session to define the landscape and help you understand where you fit in. It won't be an in-depth technical examination of how AI works. This is an outline of the practical concepts to help you create an approach to increase the engagement through personalized touch points using AI without it feeling impersonal and without burning out your team. This isn't advocacy for preferring AI interactions over human interactions. In fact, the underlying theme is the exact opposite. It's about strategically selecting the ways that you can use AI to help your members feel heard and valued, but by amplifying the efforts of your existing team. This is an outline of how humans and AI add value separately and in combination through membership interactions. This isn't a demo of the Data Scout offering. The slides are deliberately sparse. We don't feature any imagery of our platform. I'd be happy to schedule a demo with you if you like. My contact information will be at the end. But today we're just going to focus on the concepts. This will be a starting point for those who are hoping to gain support for AI personalization in their organization, and I'll take you through a couple of ways that you can help bring that to life. Adele, if you could bring up our next poll question, please. Thank you. Material that will hopefully cover everyone. Um, from those who've got a little bit of FOMO because they're unconvinced that AI is right for them or their organization, but they're also concerned about being left behind. There'll be some information for those that understand that AI could be a viable tool for them because they trust enough in AI in general, but they are not sure really where to get started. And then those who are, yes, AI is definitely the way we want to go. We've got our strategy, but now we need a little bit of help just to implement what we're going to do. So I'll try to have concepts in here that address everybody in that landscape. But regardless of the where you fit, I think you'll find the challenges are all the same, or are very similar, pardon me. You're likely a small team supporting a large membership base. Your day-to-day is going to be filled with legitimate and necessary work, but it's often answering the same questions from members, processing renewals, sending event reminders, managing data. It's all important, but it's consuming bandwidth that could otherwise go to higher value interactions, ones that make you position to make a real difference. For staff, we're finding that they feel that there's too few people to handle the workload. There is skepticism about AI, either personally or internally within the organization. And they're concerned that not everyone is a technical expert. And worse, they don't have time to learn yet another system that might help them ease some of the burden. I've done some research and found studies that knowledge workers spend 62% of their time on repetitive tasks. And that, equates in many cases to 6.5 hours a week just responding to emails and messages, something that you might face with the inbound inquiries you have from your membership base about some of the topic areas I've just discussed. For members, what it looks like is too many calls for their attention in both their personal and professional life. They also might have skepticism about AI, but in this context, it's different. They're concerned that any interaction they have with AI is helpful and genuine. And research indicates that from a business perspective, most still prefer email for their business communications. But against that volume of interactions, research tells us that people generally spend only about 9 seconds on a branded email. So that's the window you have to get your renewal reminder, your conference invitation, your welcome email, make it relevant to them, get their attention. And the way that you do that is to not be generic, but to offer personalization. You'll get those 9 seconds and you might get more. From a membership organization perspective, again, skepticism and distrust of AI, given how they perceive the risk associated with it. The risk will look like budgetary risk, implementation risk, and tech stack complexity. So can we afford to do this? How long is it going to take our members to both implement it and then start understanding how to use it? And then does this create a tech stack bloat where we now have multiple systems doing similar overlapping functions, but none of them do all the same? That said, 95% of nonprofit leaders have expressed concern that their staff is going to be burned out. And even further, 76% of those leaders say that the burnout is directly impacting their ability to deliver on the organization's mission. So that takes it from an HR statistic and makes it more into this is putting your mission delivery at risk. And that's the scale that we're dealing with here, which is why we look at personalization. From a member's expectation perspective, they're getting personalized experience in their personal life. Their streaming service knows what they want before they watch it. Their e-commerce platforms know what they've put in their cart and what they've abandoned. Their news apps send them information about their interests, not about a general feed of everything. And when they get something that says "Dear member" from their professional association or union or regulatory body, the contrast becomes stark. It may not destroy trust, but it does create a wedge between them. Salesforce has indicated that 76% of consumers get frustrated when personalized interactions don't happen. Your members are not outliers in that number. This is reflective of general consumer bases, and the behaviors they have in the consumer life also reflect in the professional interactions. Delivering personalization at scale requires technology. And Accenture has indicated that 72% of customers now view AI as a trusted source of information for their needs. Now, they're not looking for a chatbot to be their friend, but they are expecting that systems will anticipate the requirements rather than waiting for them to search for them. Members aren't afraid of AI-assisted communications. What they're bothered by is irrelevant communications, and that is an enormous distinction. And Deloitte's found that 74% of both millennials and Gen Z use AI in their day-to-day work. These aren't technology enthusiasts. These are people working who have just normalized AI as part of their standard workflow. The communication that they want in every interaction includes AI, or at least it's expected. And that includes the personalization, which is reflective of the relationship of your organization. Your youngest and most future critical members are operating in an AI native environment. They expect that every interaction, including the relationship with your organization, reflects that. For unions, navigating a younger workforce, the gap between members who communicate everywhere else in their union can validate or erode the trust in that relationship. For associations building the next generation of professional members, personalization is not a differentiator. It's a baseline criterion. For regulatory bodies, even compliance relationship benefits from communication that reflects how modern professionals actually engage with information. It's quick, it's clear, it's contextual to what matters to them. Trust and satisfaction become important motivators for retention and membership promotion. And that's the multiplier. Organizations that close the personalization gap don't just retain members. They create advocates who bring more members in. And this is the part of conversation that often surprises people. Organizations that move early on personalization, don't just improve their own metrics. They change the expectation of the membership community with which they belong. So what I'll do now is I'll take you to some personalized interactions. Before we talk about how AI supports these interactions, I want to be very clear about what I actually mean by personalized interactions. This is not about knowing someone's birthday or their years of service. It's about context. Does this message reflect where the person is in their journey with us? Does it acknowledge something relevant about their role or their region or their history with the organization? Does it arrive at a moment that is genuinely useful to them, or is it rather when it's convenient for us to send it? Personalization strategy blends messaging, segmentation construction, calls to action, timing of interactions, and where the data is drawn from to inform the interactions itself. This gives you an opportunity to stand out from other calls for their attention by building a reputation for offering insightful and relevant information. You can't stop them from being inundated with other messaging. What we can do is improve their chances of being put to the top of the pile. And before I get into specific examples that you see on the screen, there's some things that I think we could consider when you're building out your personalization strategy. It's about setting the rules of what to include, who to contact, and when. It's about starting with good and reliable data, defining a strong brand voice so that the interactions sound like you and your organization and not generic. It's about knowing when to reach out and knowing what to say when you do. It's about avoiding sending generic mass communications to people that it isn't relevant to. You need the ability to understand and then act on the information that you have. And thankfully, organizations like yours tend to have the information on their membership base to draw from, so you're not starting from scratch. Always make sure you have a mechanism for your members to respond to your engagements. Ensure that you are available to their responses. Operate on timelines that work for them and in the channels that they want to receive information in, and offer responses with messaging that's personalized to them and contextual for them. All right, we'll move on to the first touch point I have here. Welcome and onboarding. The first 90 days of a membership are usually the highest risk period for churn, but also the highest opportunity for establishing a genuine relationship. Many organizations underinvest in this moment. A generic welcome email doesn't do much to create a connection. What creates a connection is a welcome that reflects who this specific person is and what they actually need right now. What that looks like is different depending on the mandate, but the mechanics are all identical. For an association, it means segmenting new members by career stage, professional specialty, or chapter. So their first-year practitioner receives a different resource than a 20-year veteran. For a union, it means immediately clarifying the specific rights, the relevant local contacts, the contract provisions that apply to that specific workforce, and it builds a foundational trust from the very first interaction. For a regulatory body, it means proactively surfacing continuing education requirements, renewal timelines, and practice area guidance so that newly licensed professionals are not left to search for the information that could easily be waiting for them. The context changes, but the need for relevance doesn't. Touch point number 2, renewals and reminders. There's a meaningful difference between renewal reminder and a renewal argument. A reminder just tells you when the expectation date is, or the expiration date is. A renewal argument says, here's what you accessed this year. Here's what shifted in your field. And here's what's coming for you that you're not going to want to miss. The first is generic and forgettable. The second requires knowing something about the individual member and what their experience has been so far. Research consistently shows that segmented lists produce substantially higher open rates and click-throughs. And given that many membership communications relate to renewal, increased engagement drives higher revenues. With thoughtful AI list segmentation producing results, layering on top of that AI-driven one-to-one personalization, where the message itself is tailored to the individual member and not the group that they belong to. This represents a huge opportunity for exponential increases in engagement effectiveness. The performance difference between personalized and generic outreach is not inconsequential. It's structural. AI-generated email content bridges the gap between knowing what a personalized renewal argument should look like and being able to produce one for every member on your list. Next, we'll move on to event and conference outreach. Conference registrations, early bird deadlines, professional development events. These are all significant engagement and revenue drivers for most membership organizations. They're almost universally underperforming because their outreach is generic. Now, don't miss our annual conference. Email is just noise that gets added to the pile with everything else. A message that says, based on your practice area, these 3 sessions are directly relevant to where your field is moving, is a reason for someone to register. The difference in segmentation paired with relevant copy and AI makes that combination achievable for a team that previously can only send one undifferentiated blast to all of its members. But the member who receives this information, when it clearly reflects their professional context, they don't just register at a higher rate. They feel better about the event, they understand more about the organization, and it increases the brand of that organization because it underlines the fact that they understand their needs and that you're not just a number. Then we'll look at repetitive and inbound inquiries, and this is where most of our clients have a lot of their pain. Every member Every member-facing team has a set of questions to answer every single day. Membership status, event registration, password resets, renewal deadlines, contract revisions, steward contacts, grievance procedures, continuing education requirements, license renewal processes, address changes. It might vary by whatever membership association you're part or membership you're part of. These are legitimate questions that deserve a good answer, but it consumes the time of skilled staff that could be used elsewhere. And this is where chatbots usually come in. McKinsey found that AI and customer service environments can reduce human volume of the volume of human service contacts by up to 50%. And research from Gartner and Deloitte indicates that the difference in cost per interaction with a human agent versus an AI chatbot is substantial. The research suggests that the cost of a human interaction is $11.50 on average, whereas a chatbot is 65 cents. Salesforce research indicates that leaders expect AI to factor in almost a 20% reduction in their case resolution time and costs. And Gartner predicts that by 2029, agentic AI will autonomously resolve 80% of customer service issues without a human interaction. Now, obviously, AI is moving at a very quick pace, and no one knows how to predict the future. And we're not close to 2029 yet, but the direction is clear. Organizations that begin to build the capability now will be poised to reap the benefits versus those that try to reach or catch up later. Well-built AI chatbot handles inquiries with confidence and accurately and consistently. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Members get the same answer when they need it. The staff members get their time back for conversations that actually require a human. And this is how you begin to resolve the personalization paradox. You automate the routine to protect your capacity for the complex. So one thing that I want to make sure I'm clear on here, though, is it's not about deflecting members. It's about routing them correctly. Complex and sensitive relationship-dependent interactions belong with a person. They will always belong with a person. The chatbot creates a capacity for your staff to be genuinely present for the members when it matters. And the last touch point I'm going to touch on, or I'm going to go to, is the at-risk member outreach. So members who are disengaged rarely announce it. They just stop opening emails. They skip the annual conference again. Their last meaningful interaction might have been 6 months ago. And by the time the renewal notice rolls around, the decision about whether they stay has often already been made. Proactive personalization through outreach to at-risk members before that decision window closes is significantly more effective than a last-minute or after-the-fact win-back campaign. But this requires knowing who those members are and how having a relevant conversation can be to have through their outreach. AI-driven segmentation identifies behavior signals. AI-generated copy provides outreach messaging that feels personal and timely rather than transactional and reactive. Organizations that do this well are not just reacting to churn, they're preventing. So what I've done on the next slide is just put together a bit of a summary of what this would look like in practice. It's to help frame the discussion, but also it could be used as a model that you could take internally if you want to have this discussion with people on your team who are not yet convinced. So I've created an example of what AI personalization's impact could be. And I used very conservative numbers here because the value of the point is obvious. I didn't need to overestimate what's going on. If you have a 5% lift on event revenue, so registration from education or conferences, 5% lift on $150,000 in revenue is $7,500 a year. If your members interact with chatbots using the Deloitte and Gartner data, where it is basically 5.5% of the cost of interacting with an individual. Presuming that an individual or a group of individuals who represent $100,000 worth of salary and spend a day a week interacting with the public or with the membership base, using chatbots can save almost $20,000 a year. If you save off 5% of churn, if you reduce your churn by 5% on $250,000 worth of membership revenue, that's $12,500 a year that you would save. And just in terms of freeing up people to do other work, if you saved half a day per week on average, that would equate to about $8,700 per person or per year for the organization. So we've been using relatively small numbers and a conservative number for what the impact could be in terms of percentages. That's still a $47,000 saving on costs throughout the year, much less the improvements to the interactions and how people feel about your organization. So when you're taking this internally, or you're thinking about how to make an argument for this, this is a basic framework that you can use with your own data to figure out, what's the level of impact personalization and AI can have for us. The next area I want to cover is where AI fits in and where it does not. Because as I mentioned at the beginning, this is not about advocating for AI over people. It's about blending the two capacities together to create something that is greater than the individual components. AI is an amplifier. It's not a replacement for your organizational voice. So let's spend some time here because often I see that people are really enthusiastic about bringing on AI, but they're a little bit confused about, well, how does it work with the actual people that work here? Will it do everything? Does it need to be managed? What's the balance? So what it does well is it allows you to scale. It can generate personalized email content for hundreds or thousands of members simultaneously, drawing from the data that's already in your system. Work that would normally take a communication team's weeks to do can be done in hours. And sometimes teams can't even do that scale of work because they just can't personalize at that level. Chatbots are consistent. They don't have bad days. They don't get short with members who ask the same question for the 10th time that week. It delivers the same quality responses at 11 p.m. on a Friday as it does at 9 a.m. on a Monday. And for teams that are stretched thin, that consistency is a substantial benefit. It recognizes patterns. So AI identifies behavioral signals that humans cannot track at volume. A member who has not logged in, hasn't opened the last 3 emails, and is 6 weeks from renewal is a risk pattern. AI can surface it automatically. The staff member's job is to respond to that signal thoughtfully, not to manually find those signals across thousands of records. And then finally, with what AI I think does well is speed to relevance. AI-assisted communication allows organizations to move from, we should follow up with members who attended the governance session, to actually sending that follow-up on the same day with content that was relevant to what was covered. Now, here's the important part. This is what AI does not replace well. Organizational voice and values. The character of your organization, the tone, the ethical commitments, the specific way that your community talks to itself. AI can reflect and amplify those, but they can't originate them. They can't create them. The quality of what AI produces is shaped directly by the quality of what goes in. Organizations that get the most from AI-assisted communications invest time in training in their own voice, in their content, not just by deploying. You spend a lot of time on your brand, and your brand is what makes you set apart from other organizations, or in this case, other calls for their attention. You wouldn't want AI to be very generic, which would undermine your brand. There's a lot of nuance to what you do. So make sure that you program in and set rules for that nuance with your organization using your AI. Pardon me. in your organization that uses AI. It doesn't replace judgment on sensitive interactions. A union member navigating a workplace grievance, or a licensee under investigation, an association member in a difficult professional situation, these are interactions that still belong with a human. A well-built system recognizes those boundaries and transfers clearly and immediately those people to a human interaction. Those still belong with people. Again, it's about surfacing those, understanding when those moments are happening, and then passing it off to a human interaction. Strategy. AI executes within parameters that humans define, much like the brand voice we talked about earlier. The decisions about which segments matter the most, which moments matter most in the journey are the highest value, which messages align with the organizational goals. That's just the strategic layer that's not replaceable. AI will not replace that. You are still the tone setter there. So make sure that that's the expectation that you go in with. That AI will not just magically make everything work. You still have control. You still get to set the guardrails, and you still set the direction. For practical examples of all this, like for a regulatory body, the stakes around accuracy are really concrete. A licensee receiving incorrect guidance about a continuing education deadline or a practical requirement from an AI chatbot is not just a service failure, it's a professional risk for them. Any AI system handling regulatory questions must be built on verified current information and have unambiguous escalation pathways when the question exceeds its scope. So that's the piece that you need to work with whenever you engage with your AI to build that functionality in. For unions, foundations of trust for the membership relationship. AI communication that sounds hollow or feels like a form letter with just a name inserted erodes your trust quickly. The goal is for AI to sound like the organization, to sound like its value, its voice, its genuine concern for its members. And that is achievable, but requires intentional effort on behalf of the membership-based organization. And for associations in the professional community, dimensions of membership of the relationship means that communicating, constantly signaling whether the organization understands who its members are or it doesn't understand is what comes out if you don't properly manage the back end that sets the standard. Personalization is done well when it reinforces the sense of being seen. Done poorly, it confirms that it's a generic experience the members are having, and they already learned to tune it out. And before we jump to the next section, which is on gaining internal support, I believe we have another poll. Okay, so the last section that I'll cover here is getting internal support. I appreciate that people will be at different parts of their journey. But you want to move this forward, and you sit across from your leadership team or your board or your budget committee, and you need to make the argument in favor of AI and personalization. Here's a few ways that I would frame it. I would lead with capacity and not technology. The most effective argument for investing in AI-assisted member communications is not AI is the future. It's far more simple and far more immediately credible. If you say AI, our team cannot sustainably deliver the membership interactions that drive retention and engagement at scale that our membership requires. It's a capacity problem. And this is a capacity solution using AI personalization. When you use that framing with your leadership team, you're not speaking in the language of technology adaptation or adoption, pardon me. You're speaking the language of mission sustainability. That's a different conversation, and it lands differently. You want to connect outcomes that leadership already cares about. Retention is a financial conversation. A 1 or 2% improvement in renewal rates represents meaningful dues revenue. It does not require you to add on any new members. If your organization has thousands of members, The math on that is worth doing before you walk into that meeting. Event revenue is measurable. Personalized outreach moves at early bird registration rates. Even if it moves it modestly, every dollar has a clear impact on your project. And then staff efficiency is a cost conversation as well. Time reclaimed from repetitive inbound inquiries is not just recovered time. And it's recovered time and it's happier staff. It's a skilled professional attention that can be redirected to membership interaction that really requires the expertise in the relationship. So everyone benefits from that. Staff gets their time freed up, staff gets to do more meaningful interactions, and the members get to benefit from dedicated time on those meaningful interactions. There might be some who have concerns about authenticity. I mean, all of it I understand. This comes up fairly commonly. The concern is that if we use AI to write member communications, it won't feel genuine. But to reframe that, the alternative is a generic blast to thousands of members who receive the same message regardless of who they are and where they are in their journey. This is not more authentic, it's less. Personalization done well feels like the organization is paying attention, feels like the message was meant for you because it was. It's not a trick, it's just good communication done at scale. And then the we aren't ready objection. Organizations that wait till they have better data or a bigger budget or a more sophisticated tech stack will often wait indefinitely. It'll never be a good time. The organizations that benefit the most are the ones that start with what they have and build out from there. The first version doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be better than what's happening now. And that is a more achievable standard. In summary, the personalization paradox is real. The gap between member interactions that you want to deliver with the bandwidth that your team actually has is a genuine structural tension. It's not going to resolve itself through goodwill and through effort. I want to leave you with the framework. Know the moments in your members' journey that are the highest value touch points. Design a genuinely personal interaction that what it looks like in each of those moments, and find the approach and the tools that help you deliver that at scale without burning out a team that makes your organization run. Closing the organizations that close this gap now are not the largest or the best funded. They're the ones that make a deliberate decision to stop treating personalization like a luxury and start treating it like a baseline that the members deserve. If you have any more questions or comments about this subject or would like to chat any further about what AI personalization could look like in your organization, my contact information is here, and you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I'd happily chat with you. Thank you very much for your time today. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them into the chat. Keith asks, at what point does personalization get creepy? That's a good point. I would say my personal opinion is that if it is contextual to what your interaction is expected to be, I don't think it's creepy. If you start referencing things that are even publicly available, say through their LinkedIn account or through social posts that they make, that aren't relevant to what you do as what your interactions typically are, that's when I think it gets creepy. Because while people generally have an understanding that what they put out in the world can be sought and surfaced again, it's unsettling when it happens, particularly when it's out of context. So stick with the things that matter most to your organization and to your interactions that would typically happen, would be my perspective. Are there other questions that anybody would like to ask? Del, I saw you come off mute there and then jump back on. Okay, well, not hearing any more questions and not quite sure if Dell's having more tech issues. Why don't we leave it there? Thank you all very much. My contact information is here. You're certainly welcome to contact me if you'd like any further conversation on this. And thank you very much for the time you've given me today. It was nice speaking with you.